I feel like when we first opened, I was more or less just trying anything, and there was no real system as to why I was doing it. So
Yeah, no real
we made,
strategy.
yeah, no strategy. So we had one, figuring out what we were trying to get across, our message, who we really are, and then making a consistent schedule of when we're putting out offers, why we're putting them out, and then how we kind of bring people in an onboarding strategy to make it consistent with everyone.
Hello, my friend. Before we jump into today's episode, I have an invitation for you. It's an invitation to London. Come join Mark Fisher for our Gym Business Growth Day, which is going to be a one-day event in London, and it's happening on Saturday, November 8th. This event is for gym owners who want an injection of kind of business know-how going into the end of the year, making it a strong close to a year, and then who want to be ready to make 2026 their best year ever. Tickets are only £99, which is great for you Americans, but seating is limited. We have a pretty small venue over there in London that we're going to be doing this in. So if you want to learn more about this event and see the full agenda, click the link in the show notes. Hope to see you in London. Hello, fitness business nerds. What's up? Welcome to another episode of the Business for Unicorns podcast. Today, I'm very excited to have on the podcast for the first time a Unicorn Society member for the last year, the co-owner and manager of Nagle Fitness in Massachusetts. It's Jeff Nagle. Welcome to the podcast, my friend.
How's it going? Thanks for having me.
So excited to have you on the podcast. You've been absolutely crushing it as a gym owner for the last year. You've joined Unicorn Society in the last year, so I've had a front row seat to watch you crush it. And all of our coaches have had a front row seat to watching you crush it. And we've just been so excited to have you on the podcast to kind of share your story, share your successes, so all of our listeners can chase some of your wins. And so to get the party started, just tell us a little bit about Nagle Fitness.
Yeah, we are a small gym a little bit south of Boston. We focus primarily on personal training. We do have a style where it allows about 5 or 6 people on the floor at one time, but every person in our gym has their own personal plan. So we lean into the personal side more than we think we might need to, but we really lean into it, especially in our marketing and our sales and everything.
That's great. So how do you do it so that everyone has their own programs, 5 or 6 people maybe on the floor at a time? How many trainers?
We try to have 2 trainers on the floor as many times as we can.
Got it.
And then every coach is assigned a program to write. We still have our coaches all reaching out and connecting with all of our members, so everyone knows everything about everyone in the gym.
Sure.
But one person is in charge of creating that person's programming, updating their particular programs, and keeping track on how their consistency is over time.
Yeah, good for you. That's great. And how long have you been open?
We've been open since July of last year, so about a year and 2 months.
So that's amazing. That's amazing. Well, let me tell our audience a little bit about how hard you've been crushing it. For those of you listeners of the podcast that listen to every episode, you know this already, but at Business for Unicorns, we have this Slack channel where we talk about all of our Unicorn Society members and we share all their wins. And Jeff's name came up just a few weeks ago with Coach Chris Travis, and some of the things he's accomplished over this last year are just incredible. So over the last year, since joining Unicorn Society, you've more than doubled all your active members per month. You've hired your first staff. And Coach Chris Travis says that you're basically every single week, we ask our members if they have a most important action every single week, most important next action or a MENA. And almost every single week, Chris says, Jeff always gets his MENA done, which is so impressive. I mean, all due respect to our fellow Unicorn Society members, not everyone gets their shit done every single week. And so the fact that over the last year, you've been able to more than double your members, you're always getting your action steps done, you've been able to hire your first staff. That's a lot of great wins over the last year. I know a lot of our listeners are at the same place. So they've been open only for a few years. They're looking for real growth. So I want to just kind of pick apart those wins so we can learn how you did it. Let's start with staff growth. What do you think is the biggest factor to doubling your clients over the last year?
There was a good amount. I feel like when we first opened, I was more or less just trying anything, and there was no real system as to why I was doing it. So
yeah, no real strategy.
No strategy. So we had one, figuring out what we were trying to get across, our message, who we really are, and then making a consistent schedule of when we're putting out offers, why we're putting them out, and then how we kind of bring people in an onboarding strategy to make it consistent with everyone.
Yeah, that's so important, I think. And listen, I think it's fine early on to just throw some spaghetti against the wall. But at some point, you got to be like, okay, how much spaghetti do we throw? When do we throw it? What do we hope to get out of it afterwards? What's the process we're going to use to clean up from all the spaghetti? Right? And so talk through, what is the process you land on? How often do you send out offers, and to whom?
So we originally started by splitting up my email list. I had a good sized email list, even opening the space, but splitting it up into different sectors of former clients and leads and people who have ghosted us, and making sure that we're targeting each one with different wording and different ideas for each group each month. So we do
Great.
about once a month or once every other month.
Yep.
And I think a big part of it too was when I sat down with Chris the first time was like, oh, what are your numbers on your marketing strategy? I had none. So we actually started tracking the numbers as to what we're getting out of these things and
Yep.
how they're working each month.
Yeah, listen, and that's super normal early on. People just don't have the bandwidth to make the spreadsheets and do the tracking and be consistent. But obviously, you got all that together, started to be consistent, and it made a difference. And just for for all of our listeners out there, I mean, what Jeff is explaining is basically like our email marketing playbook, which is you have three segments of on your email marketing. You have your current clients, your former clients, and people who've never been clients. Basically, as Jeff said, people who ghosted you, whose information you have but haven't bought anything from you yet. And then once a quarter, basically, or every month, you pick one of those groups to reach out to. So once a quarter, they all hear from you. Well, so 4 times a year, each of those groups is getting some offer to spend more money or come back or try your low barrier offer. And that consistency pays off, right? And you design the campaign. How are we going to reach out to them? Is it email? Is it text? Is it phone calls? Is it DMing them, right? And you execute and track your results. And that consistency really works. When you think back to the last year, what are some of the campaigns that paid off the best for you?
Oh, we had very targeted reactivation campaigns that we now run twice a year.
Wow.
I think I was doing it kind of loosely before, like just kind of asking people to come back, but we set up a real campaign for it. We had the follow-up down. We had when we're reaching out, we had an easy to click link just to join right in. And both times we ran that has been phenomenal. And it's great to see the people that already know what we're doing come right back and they stay longer.
Yeah. Yeah. Good for you. And you're mainly doing that through your campaign as a series of emails.
Yep. Campaign through a series of emails. And then we do a few phone calls and a few texts. We kind of mix in all three.
Great.
Throughout like a couple weeks. And then we have a complete end date of when the offer's over. And then we also have like a start by date. So it's not super stressful. Like you have to join right now, start today. You can start in a couple weeks, but it worked out really well.
Yeah. Good for you. I think that getting former members to come back is one of those things that we all know is so important. But people just don't focus on it consistently. So the fact that you have this campaign that you can basically rinse and repeat twice a year or more if you wanted to is amazing, right? Because you can just go ahead and change the offer, change a few words in the emails and the call scripts or the text scripts and use it again and again and again. And it gets people to come back, which is fantastic. Yeah, good for you. So you mentioned one piece of this success was putting out regular, consistent offers to those groups of people. But you also mentioned that you have like a real lead follow-up process and you're doing better at like conversions and sales. So kind of walk through when like an average person finds you on their website right now. What is the sales funnel you're taking them through?
So when they find us, they reach out somehow. So we do have a link to click on our website. We have a spot to click on our Instagram page, we have a spot to click on our Facebook page. So however we get their information, we then reach out as fast as we can. So we want to get a phone call or an email sent out to them immediately. And then we try to get them either on the phone or in person for just a quick intro to learn more about them. Mm-hmm. Once we learn more about them, we try to get them into a low barrier offer, something that kind of gives them a feel for what the gym is like without any kind of stressful situation of a long-term commitment. And then at the end of that, we basically sit down, follow up with how they did, and then if they want to continue with us. And it has been a smooth process. It's been consistent, so everyone gets the same process as they come through the door. And it has been working better than we could ever imagine.
Yeah, good for you, my friend. It's so nice to have a process like that, and you just nailed kind of the textbook sales funnel that we know works. What's your LBO been? What's your low barrier offer been?
We trialed a lot back and forth. We tried a 2-week, we tried a 4-week, we tried a 30-day. We tried a lot of them. So right now we've been landing on a 3-week trial. That's $179.
Great.
And I think for our gym, our style, our personal aspect of it, I think it has fit so well that we haven't changed it in about 6 months, and
Great.
It has been flowing perfectly. We're at about a 72% conversion rate off of those right now, and it's been
Nice.
just flowing perfect.
Good for you, my friend. That's great. Yeah, I think most people on this podcast who've listened for a while know that we recommend for most people like something like 2 weeks for under $100.
Mhm.
But for someone like Jeff, it makes sense. It might need a little longer and a little more expensive because you do one-on-one training, right? And I think you need it to be more expensive, so the jump from low barrier offer to their full price that they do paying is not so extreme. So I love that you found that sweet spot of like 179, 3 weeks. That's fantastic. Yeah,
Yeah.
good for you. All right, so that's a lot of great. That's a lot of great tips and tricks for how to get more clients in the door. And obviously, I'll say this: that the reason you've been able to grow so much is not just because you've done a good offense. You had good defense. Your retention's been really high. Yeah. And so, do you want to talk a little bit about that? I know it wasn't something that I mentioned earlier before we started recording, but is there anything you're doing that keeps your clients so long? Why are they staying so long?
Yeah, I mean, when I first talked with Chris, we were sitting around like 6 or 7%
Mm-hmm.
losing per month, and that was hard to keep up with.
Yep.
This year to date, we're under 3%.
It's amazing.
So we've been sitting under 3%, and I think we put together a really strong process with our entire team. So it's not just myself, it's not just our manager, my wife running the back end of things. It's our whole team have a consistent way to reach out to people to stay on top of what they're doing. And I think that's kind of we're like we talked about earlier, digging into the personal side more. So
Yep.
we are up to date with where they're at in their program, when they need to check in, can we help anymore? And ever since starting that, we have a 90-day onboarding process that we have about 40 touch points in that first 90 days, and
Yep.
it has been just spot on. We've done small tweaks here and there just for what we hear from our members when we do our sit downs or experience surveys, but that onboarding process, staying on top of our members and learning more about them just kind of shows, I think, that we care a lot. And when
Yep.
they feel that we care, that they feel that they're in this place that they need to be.
Yeah, good for you. I think that to have a really great 90-day onboarding with that many touch points really does send the message that we care. We're here to learn about you. We're here to support you. We're help you to build more healthy habits. And the habits are not just things we want you to do, but the habits are the things we do in our relationship together. Right?
Yeah.
Us checking in, talking about your goals, talking about what's working, talking about what's not working. That we're not just getting our clients to develop habits in those first 90 days. We're developing habits as a relationship, right? As a team who's helping to support them. And so I think that's fantastic that you continue those things. So after the 90 days, what are some of the things you guys do long term? You mentioned some check-ins. Just walk me through that part.
Yeah. So the first 90 days, we do 3 sit down check-ins. We actually sit down in person. After the 90 days, we do a 90-day check-in. So they'll sit
Great.
down with us every 90
Every
days.
3 months. Yep.
Exactly. And then on top of that, we also do a weekly check-in with members who have not been in the gym for the week. So
Great.
if someone hasn't been in Monday to Thursday, we check in on Thursday, be like, hey, how are things going? I'm just making sure that they know that we still care about them, so they're not just being
Great.
lost in the dust. And then we actually have a small section of our onboarding process where we allow for personal written cards and personal gifts that we give out to a certain amount of people off of that 90-day process. So we
Nice.
have our members that are past 90 days. We kind of look at the list, like who's kind of due for that gift or that card, who needs a little bit of like that little extra motivation. And we just kind of keep that system going, make sure that everyone keeps on point with it. And then on top of that, we also started doing our experience surveys, which also adds in a raffle that we do for a very exclusive water bottle that everyone wants at our gym. We don't sell them, so no one can get them unless you enter the raffle by doing our experience survey, which gives us another reason to talk to them and also listen to what they're saying and then make the changes off of those experience surveys.
That's amazing, Jeff. I mean, I hope listeners, I hope you're all taking notes because all of that is really just, a textbook example of what good retention strategy looks like. The fact that you onboard them well, you continue some of those onboarding things. There's regular touch points for people who are showing up where you talk about their goals. There's, you don't let people ghost you when people are not showing up and not using their membership. You're reaching out proactively and connecting with them. You're making it fun by doing fun things like raffles, and so good for you, my friend. I mean, I know that for some of our listeners that will sound like a lot, but that's spread out over many, it's one check-in every 3 months, right? So it's really spread out for all your people. And so, yeah, it's a lot of work, but it's the reason why you got your attention from 6 or 7% down to under 3%. Mm-hmm. So good for you. That's amazing. All right, I want to switch gears because one of the things that I mentioned at the top was that you start to hire your first staff. I know for a lot of our listeners, they're either at that point or they just, they're thinking about that, hiring their first staff. That can be a little scary if you never hired before to create those processes and kind of be an HR manager for the first time, is a little bit of a learning curve. So just kind of walk me through what you learned from hiring your first staff member.
I learned a lot from Chris because I think I called him every week that entire
Yep.
process, and
Yep.
we made sure that we were on point with it. But I think it was a lot of me just letting some of the trust go. I feel like the clients that I had, I wanted them to trust that I was bringing in someone that I trusted as well. So I think getting out of my own head that this person is going to do great. They're supposed to be different from what I'm doing. They're supposed to have their own flair on things.
Yep.
But bringing on someone that had the personality that we wanted. It wasn't necessarily that they had 10 years of coaching experience. It was someone that walked in their door, that kind of lightened up the room, that had a smile on their face, that could engage with people that I want to engage with. And then all the coaching sides of things that we could add on over time. We can teach them the programming. We can teach them how to kind of interact on the gym floor. But if they didn't have that kind of interpersonal skill of like reading the room, meeting people where they're at, building that community, that I don't think it would have worked as well as it has.
Yeah. Good for you, Jeff. I think the thing I hear you saying here is that during this first hire, one of the things that you learned is what you're looking for. Mm-hmm. Right. And you learned that for you in this moment, hiring someone who comes with a little bit of those kind of character traits and personality traits that make them light up a room, make them be that kind of sticky personality people can't wait to spend more time with. That to you in these first hire was more important than technical skills or certifications. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, good for you. I think there's a lot of gyms who take that same approach. We certainly did at Mark Fisher Fitness. Almost all of our first few hires had like no training experience. Well, not all, but many of our first few hires had almost zero training experience. We hired for personality and energy and pizzazz, and that worked out for us. And over time we tried hiring people who came with certs and personality. Once we got big enough to be patient enough to find those people, but good for you. What about the actual technical process? What did you learn about what makes a good hiring process?
I think what we did, we're hiring again right now. I think what we learned from the first time to the second time is a little bit more of a vetting process at the beginning. I think I burned myself out a little bit with just taking as many interviews
to so many people. Yeah,
exactly. So we added in a phone screen. That was just a quick 10, 15-minute phone screen. We can kind of weed out who we expect to be in, who we don't expect to be in. Kind of who fits our bill, who doesn't, and it really is more or less like, do they fit as in the start date and the hours we're looking for and all those things. And because a lot of people didn't at the beginning.
Yep.
So right now in our process now is a little bit kind of deeper into what we're looking for, hours, and the right person in the right chair, I guess we say, because we're not looking for the exact same role right now.
Yeah. Good for you. Yeah. I think that's fantastic. And again, for listeners to the podcast who've listened for a long time, we have like a 10-step hiring process. We did a whole podcast about it before. I think Jeff's describing what is step 3 for us, which is, doing a phone screen. Once you've looked at people's resumes and or cover letters and or watched their videos, if you do videos, the first step is just to get them on a 10 or 15-minute conversation to say, okay, we need you to start at this date. Can you? This is the pay. Will you work for that? Right? We need someone who worked these hours. Can you do that? Right? You put all those logistics first, because if they're a no to any of that, the conversation's over. Right? If they can't meet some of that basic criteria, and then to Jeff's point here, you don't waste your time talking to all these candidates who you learn a few hours into your investment can't start for 3 more months, or aren't willing to work for what you can afford to pay them, or or just can't ever work weekends, And so by putting all that logistics stuff first, one, it means you have to know those logistics. You should know what the pay is. You got to know what the schedule is. You got to know what the start date is, that kind of stuff. Then you can screen for it. And then the people you spend real time getting to know in group interviews or solo interviews or all the rest of the things you might do next, that they can actually fit the bill. which is critical. Yeah, that's great. So you say you're hiring right now. Anything you are doing differently aside from vetting them a little differently? Anything else you're doing differently this time?
I think the main thing we're doing differently, like I said, the phone screen, but also when we do the first interview, we're actually going to be doing a group interview at the end, because I want it to be almost like a team effort of who we all think is the best role, because we all know what role we're hiring for, but I don't want to have my blinders on to maybe missing something that our other team members are already seeing. So we're going to be adding in a group interview at the end, which is the last part of our hiring process. And that's going to be kind of the last stage of who we kind of all can agree with that fits what we're looking for.
That's super fun. Yeah, good for you. Good for you. It's fun. I've never heard anyone do a group interview at the end, but I like that idea. In our process, the group interview comes first before the solo ones. But either way, wherever you put it, it's useful because a group interview lets you see how well, a few things you could do. You can do a group interview where it's a bunch of your team members interviewing them. You get a lot of opinions from your team members, or you can do a group interview like the one we recommend, which is a bunch of candidates all in the same room at the time, and that's fun because you get to see how they interact with each other. And either way, group interviews can be really fun because you get multiple opinions and perspectives at the table. So that's exciting. Good for you.
Yeah.
All right. So I want to switch gears again and talk about the kind of third thing you've been nailing lately. So we talked about kind of more than doubling your clients. We talked about you hiring for the first time. Now I want to talk about the idea that you always get your shit done. Right. So every single week we ask our clients what the most important next action is or what your MENA is every single week. And your coach, Chris Travis, says, Jeff's always getting it done. And I can say, I've been doing MENAs with folks for a bunch of years. And I would say it's like, 75% of people tend to get it done from week to week, but 25% seem to just not be able to get that thing done. How do you stay focused on your most important tasks each week?
I don't know if it's different for me from everyone else, but it's more,
Sure.
I write them down immediately when we put them out there on my own notebook. So one, I can remember in my own head what I have to do. And
Yep.
then every single week I make sure before we have our next check-in that I'm getting it done on a week-to-week basis. And I make sure to perfect it by the end of the month. So I don't just do it once. I try to do it 2 or 3 times to try to perfect it. But in my head, it's kind of like how we coach. Like if I had everyone in the gym listening to every word we said, I think they'd do great things.
Sure.
I know Chris and all the coaches know so much. So if they're going to give me some sort of advice to do something, like, hey, do this, it's going to help. I'm going to do every single thing they ask for. And for the last year, I've tried to do everything, and it has worked tremendously. And I will not stop doing those things.
Good for you. Good for you. Good for you. I mean, the thing that a lot of people experience is that they just get distracted, right? They know what the most important thing is to do each week, but something else comes up, some sort of shiny object, some sort of, I'm putting air quotes up in this podcast, some sort of emergency or fire pops up that gets there. So how do you avoid the distractions?
The distractions, I try each day of the week, I try to have a certain thing that I get done. So like Mondays might be when I start doing some extra programs. Tuesdays might be when I start doing all of our marketing for the following week. And it's usually the end of the week where for me, it's on Thursdays where I actually don't go into the gym that morning. I stay home and I do all of the things I'm supposed to do for the coaching side, as in what have Chris and I talked about, what are the things that need to get done. And I focus on that almost the entire morning for that day. So
Right.
I almost block off my schedule for that. I take no meetings that morning. I take no calls that morning. And then my schedule opens back up that afternoon. So I guess for me, it would be more just putting in a schedule. It's almost like blocking off time for a workout. Is for me, if I don't have it blocked off, I probably won't do it.
Yep.
Like you said, it just gets distracting. So if I leave my own devices, it just will go to wherever. Same thing with anything else. Same thing with the marketing aspects. If I don't put it in my schedule to do it, it's probably not going to get done.
Yeah. Yeah. Bravo, Jeff. I think what you just described is really kind of classic best personal productivity hack, right? Which is just have a schedule, have a schedule that matches your priorities. And I think what you're even describing is what we would call like a block schedule, right? Where there's like real chunks of time where you're focused on the same kind of work. So you're not wasting energy switching gears from this thing for 5 minutes, this thing for 5 minutes. You have a whole blocks of time where you're focused, for example, Thursday mornings, working on the business strategy you discussed with your coach, right? And I think that that's a really great example to all our listeners, which is you got to plan for the week that's going to set you up best to win. You got to design your week to be in line with what your priorities are at any given moment. And not everyone has the same level of flexibility, right? Some people are still working on the floor a lot. Some people got young kids. Some people have, take care of, elderly parents, right? There's a lot of priorities pulling us in different directions. But if you're not making a plan, if you're not setting an intention for how you want your week to go and your priorities aren't baked into that plan, it's really easy to get distracted. But when you do it like Jeff is here, you can see that the results pay off. You have consistent time every single week to work on the business and get done your most important next action, which is so admirable. So bravo, my friend. That's huge.
Thanks.
Yeah. I know we talked about all sunshiny, positive things over the last year, but clearly there's also been some struggles. So to make sure our listeners don't think you're just some sort of robot who everything is going perfectly for, tell everyone about a struggle you've had over the last year.
I'd say mindset is a big one. As in having the confidence in myself to know that I can keep doing things the way I want to do them.
Mm-hmm.
Especially at the beginning, we were losing people. Like I said, that 6-7%. It was really hard for me to kind of keep my confidence up as like, this is the
Yep.
right idea. We're doing the right things. Because the people that are in the gym loved it, but I got really affected by every person that would cancel. So I kind of made it a goal of mine to, one, reduce that. But I also talked a lot with my wife as well. And she's like, it's not a personal attack on you. People's
Yeah.
instances change. So for me, getting my mind to be positive, because now we have to lead a team. So if I'm coming in with a negative attitude, the team has a negative attitude.
Sure.
So I want to walk in the door kind of as someone that is happy, positive. I wish I was like that 24/7. But I'm trying to work on just having that positivity, that confidence all the time.
Yeah. Yeah. That's amazing, Jeff. Cause now that you are leading a team, we all know that, the leader's actions are both loud and contagious, right? You walk into a room, you walk into the building, you walk into a meeting, you show up on the floor with your coaches. People are looking at your energy and your attitude and what you spend time thinking about and talking about. So if you are negative about every client who leaves, or talk shit about clients after they leave, or negative about getting about bad feedback, right? If the team doesn't see you processing that well, they're not going to process it well. So good for you for doing the work of like really finding some more positive relationship with clients leaving, because it hurts. It can feel like a real punch in the gut. And that, I'll be honest, for myself, that feeling never really goes completely away. Right. I have it all the time with business unicorns. I mean, we lose about one unicorn signing member a week on average. And every time it feels like a punch in the gut. There's some people I'm working with for 6 years personally myself. So I'm like, how is this not a personal attack? But I've learned to know better and to treat myself differently over time. To be like, okay, Michael, have your feelings. Let's have the feeling. It's okay. It's just information. The feeling's just telling me that this matters to me and I care, and my feelings are hurt a little bit. And that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. And let's move on and learn from it. Now let's dig into the data. What feedback do they give us? How can we improve? How can we, so you have to more quickly make that pivot to making it a lesson. And you're doing that, Jeff. You're doing that, which is fantastic. Now your team will see you doing that. Your team will see you having that positive relationship with clients leaving and feedback. And so good for you. I know we're running over time, but I want to cover one quick topic, if it's okay. Do you have a few more minutes?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So you mentioned earlier that you run the gym with your wife, Catherine, who is fantastic. I've gotten to talk to a few times, and you said that she basically works kind of behind the scenes on the business. I know a lot of our listeners, excuse me, work with spouses. Can you just talk briefly about how you all divide and conquer? Like, what are your roles and responsibilities? Any tips out there for people who are also working with spouses?
Yeah, I don't know about tips because I think everyone's relationship's going to be a little different as to how
Sure.
they do things. Thankfully, my wife loves this industry, she loves this business, and she gave me kind of the green light to go for it, open it up, and she has been so supportive. So I don't think we'd be anywhere near this spot if she wasn't as supportive as she can be.
Yeah.
And that next step of support was kind of helping with the business. And I think she saw me kind of drowning in the first few months, and she was like,
Yep.
I'll take over this. I'll help this. And it's the thing that she's really good at. She's super organized. She loves organizing people. She loves organizing schedules. So her being able to handle our schedules as a team, when our meetings are, who needs to be billed, when do we have our next meeting for this, and all of our community events. She is just on top of it, and she's very, very smooth with it all. When I am kind of clunky and just like, I don't know, just put the meeting wherever, and she is just very on top of it. So for her, divide and conquer is just, I think, playing to her strength as organized, composed, and kind of just even keel most of the time.
Yep.
So she kind of steers the ship as to when we need to have these big meetings, when we need to have community events, and then we kind of just follow along and be like, Kate said to do it then, let's do it now.
Yeah, that's great. So what's clear about what you just described is you both have very different lanes that you're running in. She very clearly is working on some of the operational stuff, scheduling, billing, community events. You're clearly focused on the team and the fitness experience and the marketing and the sales. Are there any decisions you've decided you have to make together?
A little bit. I think we made a lot of the pricing and the membership options together because she was once a client. So she sees that side of things. What kind of experience fits for that? So I think membership pricing and membership options are something that we kind of collided on in a good way, where she gave me her insight as to how we do it. And then whenever we need to change something or add something new in, we kind of sit down and go over it together. And thankfully she is like a Canva queen. So she'll make like all the pricing sheets and everything, which is great.
We all need a Canva queen in our life, or king, really.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's amazing. Good for you. I think, well, what you described here, Jeff, I think is, and I've worked with hundreds of partnerships. I've been in a partnership for a long time, as everyone knows. But what I think we described is, I think, really kind of a best case scenario when it comes to partnerships is that you both have very different skills and experiences, very different strengths. Your roles and responsibilities are separate and aligned with those strengths. You both have separate lane you can both run in without touching base with each other. You don't need to ask permission to do your part of your job, and she doesn't ask permission to do her part of her job. And there's a handful of things where you decide you have to do them together, which is really, really useful. And that kind of general formula is one I recommend for anyone out there listening. And it's not always the case, right? Sometimes you and your partner, whether it's a life partner or just a business partner, sometimes you have a lot of overlapping skills and experiences. That actually is tough. That's really tough. I think you really have to find a way to carve out different paths for yourselves so you each have your own lane to run in. Because if not, you're just constantly stepping on each other's toes, or both of you are really focused on doing the same work. And you're just doubling down on the work. So the fact that you both have very clear, separate roles and responsibilities is fantastic. Good for you, Jeff, and good for you, Catherine, if you're listening.
She should listen to this.
Yeah. All right. I know I've taken you over the time I said I was going to be, so let's maybe wrap things up here. So if you're looking back at your last year, I'm just curious, Jeff, of all the successes you've had, what's the thing you're most proud of?
I'm most proud of having a business that I now feel that I'm in control of in a good way. I don't feel like it's taking life away from me. I feel like it's giving me more life to do the things I want to do. It's helping people in the community. It's also giving me the idea of just, this is a fun thing that I enjoy. So it's almost like enjoying work every single day. And to be honest, when I first opened, I can't say that was the case. And the last year, it has been just kind of a blessing. I've been loving it. So
yeah, good for you. Good for you. That's a great answer. Just feeling like you're in control of your destiny and this thing that you've built and you're continuing to build. Good for you. That's amazing. If people want to learn more about you or about your gym, where can they find you online?
Yeah, we have an Instagram account, Nagle Fitness Marshfield, and then my personal account, Jeffrey Nagle 19. They kind of run simultaneously back and forth. So
love it. Love it. Well, friends, go follow Jeff and the great work that they're doing. Thanks so much for coming on the podcast and sharing your incredible story. I'm sure I'll have you back again in another year when you've crushed it even harder. And thank you so much for working with us. It's such an honor to have great, gym owners like you as members of Unicorn Society, because it helps us help you do just your best possible work. And there's nothing we love doing more. So thanks, Jeff. And listeners, thanks for listening. I'll see you all in the next one. Have a great day.
Bye.